On this International Day of Persons with Disabilities, we are taking a moment to mark and celebrate the world's biggest minority group. About 15% of the global population, that's about 1 billion people, are classified as disabled persons, according to the World Health Organization.
That's right, Scarlet, and that figure is rising steadily as a result of population growth and medical advances. Disabled people are living long, healthy lives, working, and of course contributing to all parts of society, but there's still a big gap in tech advances that allow better access to everyday things like the internet. Our next guest is a lawyer, philanthropist, and advocate for persons with disabilities. Josh Basil is the Community Relations Manager for Accessible. It's a group making the internet more accessible to everyone. And Josh is also a disabled person living strongly as a C4-5 quadriplegic. Josh, welcome to Quicktake. Scarlet and I are really excited to unpack this. Briefly explain to us how the internet is inaccessible to people living with disabilities.
Madison and Scarlet, it's great to be here today. So with the internet, there's many layers to making a website accessible. And basically when you're on a site, you have to experience it in a certain way, whether it's navigating from the drop-down menus to accessing pictures to the text, you name it. So one of the things that people don't really know about the internet is less than 2% of websites on the internet actually meet accessibility guidelines to allow persons with disabilities to fully access websites just like everyone else.
So let's back up for a moment here, Josh, because it's important that we're not only talking about people with visible disabilities. There's clearly a lot of disabilities that are not overt, that you can't see with the naked eye. So can you clarify for us and give us a sense of some of the invisible disabilities and what that entails?
So with invisible disabilities, there's persons with cognitive disabilities. There's persons with epilepsy that if you have a light or a thing that's blinking, it can trigger the event for somebody that goes on your website. I'm a quadriplegic. I'm paralyzed below my shoulders. So a lot of times, like even doing an interview like this today, you have no idea that I'm in a power wheelchair at the moment, but that I operate my wheelchair with different technologies. I operate my computer with different technologies. And that's how I'm able to access the world.
What's the biggest contributor to this problem? I'm curious, is it a tech problem? We don't have the innovation there. Is it a willingness to spend to make these websites more accessible and inclusive? Or is it a diversity issue for the people building the website? Where does the problem lie?
So the problem lies a lot of the times, and over history, it's been just a lack of awareness. People just don't even know that their websites are inaccessible. And like with the company that I work with, Accessible, we have accessible.com/ACE. You can go put your website in and it can do an audit and let you know where you're succeeding and where you're not. And that's one big thing, is about awareness. Other things, over the years, technology just hasn't been there yet. And basically the only way to actually make a website accessible was through manual coding, going through each line, every page. But as technology has advanced, we now have AI-powered solutions that can come in and help do so much of what used to only be done by hand.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, especially as we continue to make new technology more accessible. I wonder, we talk a lot about the likes of Facebook, now Meta. It's tempting and easy to blame a company like Facebook and the responsibilities that big tech companies face and bear for perhaps not making their platforms as accessible as they could be. How much do you think they deserve the scrutiny, especially as they build out new worlds like the Metaverse?
So as they build out new worlds, that's a very important point that you just made there. So what's wrong and what's been really difficult as time go on, and it's especially true with the internet itself, persons with disabilities were not really invited to have a seat at the table in the beginning days. And as it grew less and less accessible, basically persons with disabilities became an afterthought. And with diversity, equity, inclusion being put more into corporations all across the world, people are talking about making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion really has a part within the business world. We're starting to have better conversations. So if the metaverse is built and persons with disabilities, persons with diversity are not included, then we're going to have a huge problem. But if they are included from the beginning, then we can do this right. And we're not going to have the same problem of having less than 2% of the internet being accessible. I'm excited about the metaverse. It makes me think about like Ready Player One and being able to like really immerse yourself in a new kind of world of however you want to draw up that reality,
Sure.
which really, really excites me. But I just love to be a part of it from the beginning.
And so if that's the case, and I know video game companies are kind of at the forefront of all this, how are the Activision Blizzards or the Robloxes, which are platforms, of course, are they leaders or are they followers in this regard?
I don't know if I want to speak to those unique companies, but it's just, I know we all can do better. And what it takes is making sure that persons with disabilities are hired within your businesses, giving them a seat at the table, hearing their unique perspectives. Persons with disabilities are have so many talents, so many skills. Like they're natural problem solvers every single day. We have to overcome barriers. So I love the idea of having these type of corporations bring in more people that have expertise in this area, bringing in more consultants, but making sure that you do it right from the beginning. And if you do that, you start creating a disability inclusion culture where it's ingrained within the corporation's DNA. And like I said before, it then doesn't become an afterthought.
You know, we started this conversation with the statistic that disabled people are the world's largest minority group, making up 15% of the global population. That's a huge chunk of individuals to not have access, equitable access to something as big as the internet, obviously. You know, why are we still not doing enough to include and center differently abled people, particularly in the workplace?
Well, first of all, by you guys today having this conversation, you're doing so much good to make sure that we bring this awareness to the world. And then when it comes to employment, the trouble is that if you don't have people within the employment world with disabilities, you're not hearing from them, you're not seeing them, you're not having their ability for them to contribute, especially at all levels, whether it's at the lower level of a company or upper management as someone rises in their career. So the more people that we have with disabilities within all parts of life, we're going to see so much of a different world. We're going to have different conversations. And the persons with disabilities right now are the most unemployed and underemployed population in the entire world. They've been really excluded. There hasn't been an inclusive hiring process within most businesses. They haven't taken the time to learn kind of what it is and what you can do to better hire and find talent within the disability community.
Right. And as I'm hearing you talk about that, it's clear that, you know, it's a diverse community. It's not a monolith, of course. But I am curious if you see any big overarching theme for the biggest thing that employers get wrong about serving their disabled employees. You know, when we think about ADA guidelines, we maybe think about something like ramps or things like that, infrastructure. Is there any other kind of pushes that would be better for employers or in addition for employers to focus on?
So the big thing is to not make assumptions. So a lot of times you would look at me, I'm paralyzed, I have a power wheelchair, obviously you can't see it right now, but you'd think I'm very limited in certain things that I can do. But like through technology, through all these different things that are available to me, allow me to get my mind, my voice into the world. I graduated magna cum laude from law school without ever flipping a page with my fingers. And a lot of people probably didn't think that would be possible. But it's just understanding that, not to assume somebody can or cannot do something, give them opportunity, have the right conversation. And you know, you're going to see incredible things happen within your corporation. And I think so many small businesses just need to look at all your employees. Do you have diversity? Do you have disability making up all facets of your business? And then even with small businesses, making sure that getting your websites accessible, like Accessibility provides an AI-powered solution that allows you to do it. And it's incredible to be able to bring these type of technologies that can then scale it from that 2% to 5% to 50% of the internet, which I cannot wait for the day where the internet's more accessible to people.
I think that's a beautiful place to leave it. Josh, really appreciate you joining us and sharing all of that information. Thank you so much. Josh Basil is an activist for the disabled and community as a whole and community relations manager for Accessibility.